Yeah. All right, cool.
Hi, there we are. Hi, everybody.
We'll do all questions at the end. Is that all right?
That's perfect. We are live. Nice to see everybody. Woo! So I've got the lovely Natalie here with me. She is going to talk to us all about nutrition around the perimenopause and menopause. And also, if you're not quite thinking you're at perimenopause yet, then actually a lot of this stuff can be helpful for your hormones regardless of where you are. So I've listened to this talk already, or maybe bits of the talk already, and it's really, really good. Honestly, you're going to learn so much. So hopefully people can see and hear us. So if you are here first, I want you to let me know that you can. And I'm going to go live on Instagram as well. So they're going to have us on Instagram. And I will try and field comments as we go along. But as you heard Natalie say, we're going to do questions and things at the end just to make it easier. And there we go. I'm just making sure I can see things on here. Yes, I can see myself on there. And I've got Tatiana saying hi. Hi, Tatiana. Awesome. Right. Okay, there we go. So, Natalie, would you like to tell us all about you?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me here to talk about such an interesting topic about nutrition and how food can support our hormones, like you rightly said, at any stage of our hormone cycle. And I want specifically tonight to talk about how our modern day living is affecting our hormones and how our food supply has changed and how we can be really conscious and in control of how we can manage the symptoms of hormones changing just with some diet and lifestyle tweaks. And it's just worth me saying that, a small disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional. Obviously, we've got our resident doctor in the house here. So if you have any symptoms of hormonal change and you're going to embark on some dietary changes, it is really good to have the support of a GP or other medical profession to go alongside the changes. And like Nikki said, please send us your questions. There will be time at the end, so I will go back and address any questions that come in, and I will ensure we finish on time. So on my next slide, I have some introductions of myself and how I am qualified to talk to you about nutrition and hormone health. So I've been a health coach and nutritionist for over 15 years now and have been on my own personal health and well-being journey as well, of balancing my hormones to enable me to conceive my two healthy children who are now 6.5 and 4 years old. And I'm really super focused now on helping busy women get organized, feel energized, and live in sync with our changing hormones. Ultimately, I help women reconnect with food and the natural hormone cycle, so we can move away from feeling tired, sluggish, hormonally challenged to thriving, energized, and living in sync with our hormones, just as we are intended to do so. Like I say, I have a qualification, a degree in nutrition and a master's in obesity. I also run a private online nutrition clinic and have one-to-one online programs. What keeps me motivated to keep supporting other women and supporting women in transforming their health is also my personal experience of knowing how much better you can feel if you are noticing some hormonal changes and symptoms of that, to finding mental clarity, stabilizing your weight, building muscle composition, and finding the energy we all need to thrive and succeed in this busy modern world. So initially, I want you to ask yourself about what well-being means to you. And it's all a different personal feeling for each of us. We all have a different reason to embark on improving our health. And finding that one thing that resonates with us individually the most, to use it as fuel and motivation to give everything we can to improving our health. For me, it was weight loss and hormonal balance, fixing my monthly cycle, And I had to find that out the hard way of overtraining, over exercising, not fueling my body correctly, basically burning the candle at both ends. And this pushed me into a lot of hormonal dysregulation at a fertile age, where then I wanted to conceive. So I had to really relearn what optimum nutrition for women is. And we are different. We have specific needs that support our hormones and our hormone cycle, and we'll dive into that this evening. So what does well-being mean to you? And can you find the connection for health being one of your core values? Health as a core value that informs every daily decision, which is going to help you stay on your health and well-being journey. So let's get into the crux of nutrition and how it can really support our hormone health. And science is always a good place to start. This is where we gain our evidence and the important knowledge that guides us to finding what works for us, that we can then apply in our own individual way. And we are all different. There isn't one size that fits all when it comes to healthy eating. But fundamentally, there are some principles around good food, good nutrition, that are relevant to all of us. And so the menstrual cycle, you probably are well aware of. This is a very typical monthly cycle, and the main hormones, the two main hormones, estrogen and progesterone, and how they rise and fall during a full monthly cycle. And just for a bit of history and a bit of background on our evolution, it's estimated that the menstrual cycle evolved in primates nearly 50 million years ago. And interestingly, around that time, it was also when we began observing a sleep-wake cycle. So we are really cyclical beings, and we're not the same every day. We have these normal hormonal fluctuations, and learning how to observe our hormonal signs is really, really now needed in the modern world. So the first tip I can give you is, at whatever stage you are at and in your cycling health. So for women that still have a monthly cycle or a cycle, it might becoming more irregular or longer or shorter as our hormones start to change. Still continue to track your monthly cycle, even if that is just first day, so the first day of a bleed, and any signs of ovulation still, which can be really helpful to know, because that can indicate when we're moving into the luteal phase. That tends to be the more challenging phase of our monthly or our cycle. You can track any other physical and mood symptoms that helps you to start learning about your body, and you can see patterns in your physical and mood symptoms. So this is also a lovely illustration on how our sex hormones naturally decline. This is what hormone change looks like, where we're used to the cycling high and low of our sex hormones. We notice more extreme changes in the main sex hormones. We lose the protective effects of estrogen, we lose the calming effects of progesterone, and we notice signs of testosterone steadily declining, which might be loss of libido, loss of muscle tone, as our testosterone gradually starts to decline. So it's these erratic spikes and falls that impact how we feel and cause our main symptoms of hormonal change, like hot flushes, night sweats, brain fog, irritation, whatever you might be starting to notice. It doesn't help also that estrogen is linked to levels of the happy hormone serotonin. So when we lose estrogen, serotonin can fall. And then that's also why we notice the mood symptoms becoming more erratic and lower on a more frequent basis. The other one that's nicely on this image is melatonin, and this is our sleep hormone, as it's often known, the hormone that needs to be produced that helps us get to sleep. And as this decline happens, around the time of perimenopause, it's often linked to symptoms such as poor sleep. Now, sleep isn't necessarily, or changes in sleep isn't necessarily a symptom of perimenopause. It's an independent factor that melatonin reduces and declines at the same time as our sex hormones decline. So sleep very much being something we experience, or difficulties in getting to sleep, or getting back to sleep if we wake. But it's just often noted that that could possibly happen anyway, independently of our sex hormones changing. So again, with looking back in history and understanding the human body, first humans, so our Homo sapien ancestors, evolved in a very, very different environment to the one that we are currently living in. But we still have the same biological symptoms, and that some of the the genes that we have, that's being expected of us to function optimally, but in a very different environment. So we're still very much related to our hunter-gatherer time, where we had this, again, used to have a cycling nature of feasting and famine. When food was available, we ate it, couldn't store it. And then there may be periods of time where we didn't have food available. So we still have those, again, those biological systems where the body can cope with food and then fasting, a bit more food and then fasting. We very much still have these biological symptoms that safely and effectively help us to use our food correctly and survive, and very safely and strongly survive in periods of time without food. And so you might hear about fasting, feasting and fasting, again, in cycle with our monthly cycle. And I'll expand on that as we go through. More physical activity and movement was part of daily life. So a lot more strengthening movement was more common. And interestingly, a lot of sugar was very, very scarce. So we evolved without the need of a lot of sugar in the diet. Fast forward to 2024 and modern times, we have a lot on our plates. And this is what, unfortunately, is affecting our hormones in the modern world. So diet and lifestyle factors are tipping us out of hormonal balance. Even though the natural decline in sex hormones, it will happen, we can find that we're getting there quicker or more intensely. Symptoms are happening more intensely. So understanding this complex modern world means we can make some diet and lifestyle decisions that might ease the symptoms of natural hormone decline. Things like minimizing our exposure to hormone disrupting chemicals. We live in a vastly chemicalized world, found in lots of products like fragrance cleaning products, beauty products, chemically fragranced room sprays, candles. These are modern day products with chemicals that are very, very new to the human body. So we are noticing a disruption in hormones through other things in our modern day environment. So we can choose to have some more non-toxic products in our environment. Again, in our modern world, we have lots and lots of exposure to sugar and carbs and highly processed foods, which is not helping our battle with weight, or we're noticing that gaining weight and struggling to lose weight is becoming more and more difficult. There's lots of dairy in our life, in our world, which can impact a woman's hormones. And the ultra processed foods that are readily available to us, but really lacking in nutrients, and our hormones and our stress hormones, as well as our sex hormones, are taking the brunt of this. So this modern world of excess calories, excess food, highly processed food, an overconsumption of carbs in general, it's all impacting our stress and more inactivity. So this modern lifestyle that we have is one of the biggest impacts on our health for women. And we're losing our connection to the natural flow of our monthly cycle and our hormones that are still being produced, albeit on a natural decline. So we want to look at how we can reconnect with real food. Food is one of our number one fundamentals of human survival. And even though we have an abundance of food, they're not always, the foods we have available aren't always providing us with the right nutrients in the right amount that we need to nourish and energize our bodies. And the only way we can nourish and energize our bodies for every organ and system to function optimally is through the food and water that we drink. So I want to keep the talk tonight really simple in terms of what we need to be eating more of and what we can be eating less of and why. And the aim is to provide our bodies with the nutrients it needs to work optimally. And the nutrients, what I mean by nutrients, are the fats, the proteins, the fibers, the water, and vitamins and minerals. And this is where I believe a lot of our common dietary advice has gone wrong, especially for women. We need plenty of healthy fats in our diet to nourish our hormone production, to encourage our bodies to produce hormones, especially the sex hormones. We do not need to base our meals around carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are a nutrient. They are, of course, a naturally occurring nutrient, but we don't need as much of them as we have been led to believe to have good nutrition and good hormonal health. Incidentally, through our evolution, we again have these biological systems that mean we can actually even make sugar in the body from eating protein and fats. And that's another common, not the common understanding of the human body, how we actually evolved to survive in times where we didn't need or couldn't access instant sugar. So really, if you only take one thing from today, it really is to remember to connect back to food that provides us with those nutrients that I've just described, and connect it back in with your monthly cycle. Just to go a bit deeper then into, so what does that look like? What nutrients are our foods providing, and where can we be looking for more nutrients from our food? Well, our refined carbohydrates that you can see on the screen, these are really the foods that the human body doesn't need in the huge amounts that we have been encouraged to base our meals around. So one of the single most effective changes you can make for overall health and hormonal health is reducing the consumption of refined carbohydrates. And these are things like white bread products, anything with added sugar, like the sugary cereals, even like fruit, even large amounts of fruit. We don't need it. We can get plenty of vitamins and minerals and fiber and water from vegetables, We can even get plenty of vitamin C, believe it or not, from meat products. We of course need to be eating plenty of vegetables as well, but we don't need the sugars in such huge amounts that often come with eating or snacking on fruit. So I just want to also demonstrate how it can be really easy to overeat sugar without even realizing it. So again, connecting back to the food decisions that you are making. And this is a nice example of a very typical breakfast. It might not be a breakfast that you choose or that you even have, but just as a demonstration of how easy it is to start your day with having 21 teaspoons of sugar. That's even before lunch, before any additional snacks, before our evening meal. It can easily add up to a lot of sugar in a day. And this is just by demonstration, some cereal with milk, maybe a slice of toast on the side, and maybe a glass of juice, of fruit juice. That's equivalent of 21 teaspoons of sugar. And they're the instant sugars as well, the refined sugars, the ones that, again, are just going to spike our insulin, encourage us to store on, change that sugar into fat, which then stores on the body, especially if we're not burning it off. And it's really difficult these days to be doing enough physical activity to burn off or to offset the amounts of sugars that we do find in the modern day diet. So bear that in mind when you're making your decisions on your weekly shop and putting some meals together. Now, there is a really, really important point to make about carbs and women and our hormonal cycle. There's a certain stage, a certain phase of the monthly cycle where natural carbs are really, really useful and important. So this isn't about no carbs. This isn't even really about keto, if you have heard that type of eating or before. We really need to have some natural carbs in our diet in the second half of our menstrual cycle, in the luteal phase. So after ovulation, you might already notice that your appetite starts to creep up. Some people describe it and say, nothing I eat fills me up. My appetite is huge at the moment. So if you notice that you are having those days, then look where you are on your cycle. Use your app or a diary or anything you choose to use. And if you notice that correlates with your luteal phase, it's your body is telling you that you need a bit more natural carbs, and of course the protein and fats and fibers and all of the good stuff. But there's a really important time where when our progesterone is rising, that we need to support the production of that hormone in the second half of our cycle. So we want to have carbs. This isn't anti-carbs or no carbs. It's choosing the better, more natural carbs, of which I will describe what some of those ideas. But this is where we can get really specific in reconnecting and flowing in sync with our monthly cycle. So we don't need carbs at the beginning of our cycle. When estrogen is high and we're feeling good and energized and motivated, estrogen doesn't need carbs, doesn't actually really like it. We want to save our carbs for the second half. So what you can see on the slide with some examples of different amounts of carbs as a standard meal. Typically, a Western diet these days can contain around 250 grams of carbs in a day. A lot of them also being the refined carbs. And that's typically around 50% of energy intake. We don't need that amount of carbs in our day. So as you can see on these three examples, there is the comparison to ketogenic. We're not talking about that here in the second half of our cycle. You can see how by adding more vegetables or some higher carb vegetables like tomatoes, red onions, you can see how we can really boost up our natural carbs in that second half of the cycle. And so again, just taking you back to our natural flow of sex hormones, you can see the luteal phase that happens after ovulation, and it really is right up to the start of the next cycle, even into that premenstrual phase. This is all really, really relevant. And the natural carbs, or nature's carbs, that I'm talking about, that we can really have more of in this second half, are things like butternut squash, pumpkin, potatoes, all the root vegetables, beetroot, carrots, swede, anything like that. More of the citrus fruits, again, at this stage of our cycle. Maybe even some of the tropical fruits like bananas, mango, pineapple. And then we've got our nice protein and carb mixed foods naturally occurring, like the chickpeas, kidney beans, black beans, and then some of the nuts there, like cashew nuts, but all nuts as well. So you can see how we're encouraging the having more carbs in the diet, especially these really naturally occurring carbs. So hopefully you can see how food is really vital for health, and that the nutrients we need to fuel and feed our bodies can directly impact the health of our bodies. And really, hormone balance is complex. We need an understanding that not one single treatment or drug can really improve the whole hormonal conditions as a whole. So taking this whole systems approach of looking at our nutrition, looking at our movement. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we starting to consider HRT and seeing that as part of the puzzle that really helps boost our hormone health as a whole? This is where we want to start to be looking at to understand our own individual needs and the options that we have out there to help us. And just by way of one small nice visual, when it comes to refined carbs and how this is what we're talking about, where we want to significantly reduce the refined carbs in our diet, but we're still getting the added benefits of the nutrients, the fiber, some carbs obviously that come naturally with our vegetables. But you can see how on this example, that half a muffin has 20 grams of carbs, no real nutrients, no real vitamins and minerals, maybe a bit of fiber. But you could have also that whole plate of veggies and have the same amount of carbs, but get so much additional fiber, vitamins, minerals, and water. So it's just shifting our perspective on what carbs we want more of for the added benefit in our diet. So just again, from a nutritional perspective, what we want to be basing a lot of our meals on for overall health and our hormone health is increasing the quantity and the quality of our protein sources. So the human body cannot solely function on vegetables. Even a vegan and vegetarian diet requires protein and fats to be optimally healthy. And sometimes we do need supplementation of some vitamins and minerals if our protein intake is quite low. Where protein is really good as our hormones are declining is that it helps to build and preserve our muscle mass. So if we are actively strengthening our bodies through strength movements or training or workouts, then we want our food to support that, to support the building of that muscle and to support the recovery. Having high protein with all our meals, also helps with our weight loss. Like I said, the gaining more nutrition from protein and less from carbs can really help the body to release some of the stored fat and use up that stored fat as energy. And it doesn't store protein in the same way. It doesn't store it all as added body weight or body fat. That's where the glucose, that's where the carbs come in, stored as body fat. So the most nutritious sources of protein, again with added vitamins, minerals, added nutritional benefits, do come from good quality meat, fish, eggs, and ideally those that are UK produced, organic or free range, and ethically sourced, wherever you can afford the best quality protein sources that you can. And that will be different for everybody, and that is okay. We just want to be choosing protein sources for our in our diets. Of course, we get protein from plenty of nuts and seeds. So they form a really big part of a healthy, nutritious diet as well. I mentioned vegetables. They are really powerhouses of nutrition in a healthy diet. They provide so many vitamins and minerals. So we really want to be increasing those in our diets at multiple meals and multiple varieties and choice every day. So we really want to start connecting with cooking again, reconnecting with food in its most natural form. We want to be removing ultra-processed foods, which improves our gut health, manages our blood sugar balance, and reduces inflammation that a lot of ultra-processed foods and highly sugared foods also cause. The reason why having good sources of meat and eggs and animal foods in our diet, we want to try and reduce the likelihood that any synthetic hormones or all of the downsides of some types of meat in our food chain have. So with the highest quality standard of meat and fish and eggs products that you can afford, again, we are reducing that likelihood of exposure to hormone mimicking chemicals. So we want good quality meat, fish, and eggs where we can. The other component of health to support our hormones are choosing foods that contain these things called phytoestrogens. And they are compounds. They're like estrogen. These are the good estrogen mimicking compounds that are found naturally in our foods. And you can get these from seeds and nuts and the legumes like the chickpeas, lentils, red beans, red kidney beans, black beans, the seeds and nuts, any source, flax seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, pistachios, almonds, cashews, Brazil, you name it. So again, if you're reconnecting with your diet and your food choices, are you getting enough of these types of phytoestrogen containing foods in your diet? They work really well as snacks. They're great additions to salads and roasted vegetables and tray bakes and stews and all those good types of foods. So we can just keep adding these really nutritious compounds into our foods. A quick word on fat. We need healthy fats in our diet. The biggest change I noticed when I let go of worrying about calories, worrying about low fat, embracing healthy fats in my diet, I noticed not only my hormone balance returning a lot quicker, I felt a lot more satisfied. My appetite wasn't as like on a roller coaster. I wasn't so much on a roller coaster of highs and lows of energy. My skin improved. So a lot of ways that if we can get comfortable and embrace healthy fats back in the diet, you can really start to notice improvements in our health and well-being overall. And so what I mean by healthy fats are what you can see on the slide there. Are olive oil based fats, so extra virgin olive oil, olives themselves, avocados, avocado oil, coconut oils, the healthy fats from animal produce and nuts as well. And it's not often that I'm not always here to tell people what to do and what you shouldn't and shouldn't, but there is one element of our diet where I really, really do emphasize the fact that we don't need this whatsoever in our food chain or in our homes. And they are the highly processed polyunsaturated oils. So these tend to be, there are some images on the screen, but any product or oil that comes from vegetable and seed oils. And typically they are sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, vegetable oil, margarine, spreadable butter. So anything that claims it's spreadable, be curious, read the label. They're often a blend of buttermilk fat with these highly unstable vegetable oils. So these are modern day oils. And again, going back to our evolution, the body isn't used to, they're man-made, they're highly processed, they contain high omega-6, which we don't need an awful lot of in our diet. So these are one of the things that I do sort of stress to swap out immediately in your diet where possible, and get curious with reading food labels of any food products that are still in your diet that you might be unaware that they contain these seed and vegetable oils. Right. Really briefly, I'm going to go through some hormonal symptoms and how we can take diet and lifestyle, make diet and lifestyle changes to support these specific symptoms. So hot flushes and night sweats tend to be due to the changing levels of estrogen. I am a big fan of supplementation from good quality sources. That isn't all the same in the supplement industry. So it does take a bit of, a bit of time, a bit of research to look for some good quality and good strength supplements. So herbs such as sage, hops, red clover, ginseng, black cohosh, they can all help with the balancing of the declining estrogen. The phytoestrogens that I mentioned, again, they can all help encourage the production of estrogen in the body still, and staying hydrated is really important as well. The next one, I mentioned it briefly about the skin and noticing immediate changes to my skin when I increased more fatty acids, especially the omega-3 fatty acids into my diet. So through the oily fish, salmon, trout, mackerel, sardines, whichever you like. And then from the seed sources of omega-3s, flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts are particularly high in omega-3 fatty acids. Weight gain. So as our hormones decline, we want to really focus on body strengthening exercise. So weights, yoga, Pilates really help to preserve that muscle proportion of our body. Weight is very, it's a metabolic area which all of our hormones impact. So if we're stressed, we there's a cascade of insulin rising, so we store weight. So we want to make sure that we are managing our stress, which feeds into, are we having a good sleep? Have we got a good nighttime routine? Are we balancing our blood sugar with plenty of protein? Are we supporting our gut health and our other organ, our thyroid, which can also be worth to have a check over if your weight gain is really stubborn and really finding it difficult to lose weight. Insomnia and sleep issues, in their own right. Magnesium glycinate, I find, is one of the best supplements to take of an evening just before going to bed. It works on calming the mind. It's a nutrient that the brain needs. So if we can get a high dose of that into the brain as we're winding down, it can really help improve our chances of getting to sleep. Limiting caffeine and alcohol in the afternoon and evening. and this consistent bedtime and rising. So if your work, if your work commitments allow, and you can get to bed at a consistent time every night and wake up the same time to an alarm or naturally every time, that really helps sets our circadian rhythm. So it's giving us that extra opportunity to sleep, to feel ready for sleep, and to wake up more energized. And part of that is having a calming nighttime routine. So whatever you feel works for you to calm down, to calm the mind, calm the body, calm the heart rate. I don't know anyone that actually thinks that using a phone helps in that. So really, where you can, phones away, phones in a different room, phones on airplane mode overnight, to really help the brain switch off, calm and relax. And again, brain fog, another really common symptom of our hormones declining. Lots of supplements we can take and get from our foods to support our brain health. All the B vitamins, magnesium again, the fatty acids, omega-3, vitamin D and zinc, so a nice multivitamin there you could find to really help that. And all of the nutritional advice that I've given tonight really does help support our brain function, our brain health as well. Of course, moving the body, getting blood flow to the brain means we can get these nutrients through to the brain more frequently. We're helping the nutrients to circulate through the body. So moving, even 5 minutes of movement frequently throughout your day, it is a big help to help the brain to get the nutrients that it needs. And obviously recovering, regenerating overnight with good quality sleep helps the brain to function as well. There's a quick slide there on sort of a minimum supplementation list, that if you're open to supporting your your diet and your body with supplements, a good multivitamin, a high strength vitamin C, a high strength vitamin D, and those omega-3s that are really good for multiple things. You're on the right track if you've got all of those supplements in your lifestyle as a whole. So really, final slide from me before we answer any questions that might have come in. I just want to sort of make the point that if you're thinking, where do I start? What do I do next? There's 6 top tips on the screen there. I work with women on a one-to-one basis to reconnect you with food and in that sync of your natural hormones. Maybe it's time, to put yourself first. Maybe you've been supporting kids, your partner, others, and you want to start putting yourself, at the forefront of your day-to-day life. So, if you are a busy working woman and you're fed up with your irregular hormonal symptoms, you're feeling a bit out of control and want some direction or support to live back in sync with your the natural phases of your monthly cycle, then that is what I do. And I am so glad to have been able to give this information and knowledge to you this evening. And if there are any questions, we've got some time to answer them.
Thank you so much for that. Oh, it was so good. I had some technical difficulties at the start. I'm really sorry if it went a bit screwy, but we got there in the end. So yeah, thank you. That was a really, really great talk. I always find it so useful, and I've taken a few more things from this one, from the last one I saw. I was asked this question in the group a few days ago when we were talking about magnesium, because I keep hearing about it. And I think it's something I'd like to try myself. And you've mentioned the magnesium glycinate, but is there, maybe you can't advise on this, but are there any particular brands that you think are really good quality?
Yeah, I mean, again, always like to choose UK-based and support UK-based companies. The supplement field is a minefield. there are two particular brands that I recommend for the ladies that I work with and personally take myself, and they are Cytoplan and Nutri-Advanced. So they are
Cytoplan and Nutri-Advanced.
Nutri-Advanced. So they are two brands that I really like.
I'm going to show that. I don't know if I've spelt that right, but
yeah.
There we go, Nutri-Advanced. So that would be a mineral. So that's for all of them. That's not just magnesium. That's the vitamin D and the vitamin C and all the other stuff as well.
They both have, yeah, they have all.
Right. Lovely. Now that's really, really helpful. I know there was one lady that's put a comment on about things like white potato. I don't know if you mentioned white potatoes during your talk. I think, was that something that you're happy people to eat in small quantities, or not really?
Yeah. So like I was saying, they are a natural carbs. Yes, if you're carb cycling to your menstrual cycle, we want to have more of those in the second half than at the beginning. Mm-hmm. They are gluten-free, so they are a good choice if you're tempted by the breads and bread products. You know, sometimes I find that women are satisfied with having more potatoes, so you aren't tempted by the white breads. Especially if you have a gluten intolerance or sensitivity, you might find that potatoes could be your carb of choice at that second half. And of course, the sweet potatoes as well. But there isn't a lot of difference nutritionally between sweet potato and white potato. Maybe a few more extra vitamins and minerals, but really we want to be getting those from our veggies anyway. So either I feel are fine.
Okay. And is there so I'm just thinking of people who perhaps don't know what their cycles are. So people that are perhaps on different types of contraceptives, or if, like me, they're on continuous HRT, where maybe you might have a feeling of when the cycle changes, but not 100% certain. Any tips on that with the carb cycling, or is it just difficult?
Really good question, actually, and it is one that I have been mulling over, and maybe can take some advice from yourself as well in terms of how the the HRT and other contraceptions, actually how they change our cycle. Because yes, we don't want to be, so when we're postmenopausal, we actually have less of a need for carbs at any point. So it's almost bordering on that. But if you are if you are taking a progesterone, the main thing is that we want to support our progesterone. And that's what carbs do. So if we go too low carb too often, progesterone isn't as well supported. So we feel a bit sort of, it's almost like an exhausted feeling. Do you know what I mean? Because we're almost going too carb, and we still need some of that sort of protective, calming element, which carbs do give us in that stage. So it might be that it's individual, as in, when do you notice that you are feeling a little bit more maybe anxious or irritable? You know what I mean? So that might correlate or correspond to that time where you need a bit more progesterone, you need a few more carbs in that way. But yeah, it's definitely an area to explore further with how we can apply a lot of this to when we're taking HRT or hormonal contraception as well.
So I guess then for people on sequential HRT, so they're doing 2 weeks estrogen only and 2 weeks progesterone only, actually that would be a good time to kind of do the carb cycling, because that makes it straightforward. But I think I really like what you're saying about being in tune with how you feel, because actually, yeah, even though I'm on continuous HRT, I do still have times where I feel particularly more irritated, particularly more anxious, particularly more tearful perhaps, and that would be a good time to kind of think, right, okay, maybe that's the kind of premenstrual phase, and give myself a little bit more leeway with things, because you can take things to extremes as well, can't you? You can go full ketosis, and actually that's not necessarily healthy either. So it's a balance, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Great. No, thank you so much. I can't see any other questions that were put on there, but I really appreciate the recommendations for minerals, and I like the website that you shared as well. I thought that was really, really helpful. So if anybody wants to find you, I have actually put it on the resources page, and I shared this last time. So anyone that's come to a previous talk or been to one of the live ones, they should have this already. But have you got any other places that you'd like people to look for you as well?
So my website is nataliecoghlan.com, so you can contact me. There's an inquiry page, so feel free to contact me if you have any further questions, or would like to consider a Zoom chat, where if you want to find out any more about how I support women with dietary changes as well. So I am on Instagram at Natalie_Coghlan. And there's content and stuff on there, but yeah, contact me through my website. That would be wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much again. And apologies for everybody if you had a few technical hitches of not being able to see it, but this is being recorded anyway, so if you did miss a little bit of it, don't worry about it. I will be sharing it out again later on. So yeah, there we go. So thank you so much, and I'm going to finish it there. And maybe we'll bring you back again and we can do some more stuff, because I feel like, as one lady said, we could probably talk about this for hours.
I could, and I'm happy to.
Oh, exactly. Oh, it's so good. Well, thank you so much for giving up your time to come and speak to us, and thank you everybody that was here listening as well. If you have any comments, questions, queries, anything like that, just pop it in the Facebook group, or you can always send me a message or whatever. Go and find Natalie, and hopefully between us we can help you. So there we go. Good. All right. Well, good night, everybody. Take care.